Dear participants, welcome back. We will proceed for our next session. Our next speaker is Mr. Hantla Kasa, Senior Public Sector Specialist, Governance Global Unit, the World Bank Group. Mr. Kasa is the Senior Public Sector Specialist in the Governance Global Unit at the World Bank. He focuses the full range of public sector reform, service, and knowledge functions, supporting the World Bank's global portfolio of projects which contain GovTech components. Mr. Kasa offers advice and support to global task teams, procurement and governance staff in the preparation and supervision of projects with major GovTech investments. He plays a substantive role in improving World Bank GovTech practices and approaches. Mr. Kasa leads initiatives to modernize the procurement function in World Bank client countries by providing e-procurement advice, performing assessments of country e-procurement systems, and measuring of savings in public resources because of using e-procurement. Today, Mr. Kasa will share his insights on digital transformation of procurement. Over to you, Mr. Kasa.
Great, thank you so much, Pamela. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks so much for the invitation. I believe this is my second or third opportunity to present at this event over the years. Today, we're going to talk about digital transformation of procurement. It's been a long process over the last 20 years. And we have a great opportunity today to talk about how procurement is changing due to the digitalization of the function. And let's see, I'm going to go to the next slide. And we've got a lot of discussion points, and I'm going to put my timer on here so that I don't go over. So we're going to talk about the GovTech Maturity Index and public procurement. It's a new data set that the World Bank came out with there's the data from 2020 and 2022. We're going to talk about how that reflects public procurement globally, and then we'll take a look at how it reflects public procurement in India. Additionally, we'll talk about e-procurement benefits. What are the new benefits of e-procurement? Because things have really changed. We're going to talk about the applications of e-procurement modules. Many times, countries and regions within countries or subnationals aren't fully utilizing all the various modules there are in e-procurement. Then we're going to talk about red flags, sustainable and green public procurement, disruptive technologies in procurement, artificial intelligence and procurement data analytics, cloud, interoperability, and then performance indicators. So let's talk a little bit about the GovTech Maturity Index. This is a data set created by the World Bank to measure the maturity of GovTech areas. Now, we've divided into four: supporting core government systems, enhancing service delivery, mainstreaming citizen engagement, and fostering GovTech enablers. We captured data from 198 economies. It is the most comprehensive measure of digital transformation in the public sector. And it is not intended to create a ranking or assess a country's readiness or performance for GovTech, but rather it's intended to complement existing tools in diagnostics by providing a baseline and benchmark for GovTech maturity and identifying areas for improvement. Again, there are, as far as the indexes go, for the various categories, we have the core government systems. There's 17 indicators there. For the public service delivery, there's 9 indicators. For this digital citizen engagement, there's 6 indicators. And for the GovTech enablers, there's 16 indicators. And here you can kind of get a full glimpse of the core government systems. Here you can see financial management systems, tax systems, customs systems, HR systems, payroll systems, and then you see e-procurement. And you can see, although e-procurement was a little slow to take off than these other core government systems, but you can see that it certainly has caught up in the last couple of years. So that's good to see. This is globally. Additionally, you can see here the blue is whether or not there is an actual system, and if you look at E-Procurement, which is the fifth one down, you can see globally there's 133. There's some that are still being planned, and then there's some 25 countries still haven't have systems. Now, what I will say of the 133 systems that are out there, they are, across the board. E-procurement is a vast set of functionality and modules. We do consider if a country is publishing tender announcements and contract awards digitally on their website, and it's updated every month through an automated process. We do consider that procurement. So there are some countries that just have that module and they're working, and there are other countries that have full-fledged e-procurement systems. And here you can see the responses. We have 162 here, and then you can see them regionally divided. SAR, which is South Asia region, you can see the numbers associated with the distribution there. These are the indicators that we've got for GTMI, for e-procurement, for procurement. We ask, is there a procurement portal, an e-procurement portal? What's the name of the portal? What's the URL of the portal? What's the year it was launched? What are the capabilities? Do they know? Are there tender announcements and notices and contracts and online tendering and interfaces with other systems? Do they publish data in open data standard, which for procurement is the Open Contracting Data Standard known as OCDS? Is data exchanged with other systems? Is there any innovative approach associated with e-procurement? And then is there a governance e-procurement operations, registers and security audit and trails? And is there a supporting document associated with it? So that's the data that's captured. And here we have the data for India. For India and other countries, we did grab subnational data. I think India and Nigeria, we grabbed information for the regions. And here you can see that the data specifically for India, that indeed there's just over 30 e-procurement portals in all the various regions. Additionally, what we can see here is the capabilities that indeed quite a bit of them have online tendering and contracts, and even also a number of them have online tendering contracts and interfaces with other systems, which is fantastic. Here we can see whether or not they publish their information in OCDS format, which is the open data format for publishing data, and you can see the number of regions that do. And do they exchange data with other systems? We call this interoperability. And you can see here some of them, about 5 or 6, do it over a government service bus, which is a really advanced way of using an enterprise architecture to share this information with other government systems. And then others use just old-fashioned APIs to share their information with other systems within the government. Then additionally are there registries, security, and audit trails, and here you can see indeed many of the regions within India do. So that's the GTMI. I want to talk now about e-procurement benefits. A lot of these we're familiar with, and a lot of these, some of these are a bit new. So obviously there's increased efficiency and savings on the transaction cost, and also there's savings because there's more competition, because there are more bidders associated with e-procurement. Additionally, we have increased environmental and social sustainability. It helps government to prioritize their environmental and social sustainability in their procurement process, providing tools to evaluate environmental and socially impact of products and services. Furthermore, we have improved supplier sustainability performance. For e-procurement systems can encourage suppliers to improve their sustainability performance by requiring them to provide information on their environmental and social practices as part of the procurement process. We also have increased innovation by encouraging innovation in sustainable products and services by providing a platform for suppliers to showcase their sustainable solutions. Also, there's improved transparency and accountability, increased competition and better value for money, improved access for small and mid-sized enterprises or SMEs to participate in government procurement as they can submit their bids electronically, and improved data analysis and decision making. So that's many of the procurement benefits. One thing I would like to talk about is the application of e-procurement modules. And one of the issues we've at the World Bank we've seen globally is that very few countries utilize the full package of e-procurement modules correctly. And what we've got here is we've got the supplier positioning module, which we're probably all familiar with as we are procurement professionals and practitioners. You can see that for low value, low risk in the low value commodities and ready available, that e-catalogs or an e-marketplace. And I know that in India, we have GEM, the government electronic marketplace, which has been doing fantastic and created a bunch of momentum over the years. And that is using e-catalogs or marketplaces, which is perfect. For high value, low risk, these are high value items that are very competitive. Another opportunity is to use e-reverse auctions to try to get volume discounts. Then for high risk, low value, you would use e-tendering module and e-contracting module, and for high risk, high value, the same, e-tendering and contracts for very specialized items that have high values and few suppliers. And we need to recognize that each of these procurement modules provide different functionality, and they're best used in their proper context. So another thing that is that we've been working on in the bank is red flags, and we also call these governance indicators. And the idea now with digital procurement is to incorporate these into the digital procurement process. So the idea is that they're closely related to improving outcomes and government effectiveness and perceptions of corruption. Currently, most procurement fraud detection programs are ex post. That means they actually happen after the fact. So either they do a one-by-one process, which is they actually go and get each tender and they and contract, and they go through all the information and try to find if there's any fraud there, or they will go to an e-procurement database and they will grab the information and do reports to be able to identify any fraud ex post. But ideally for e-procurement systems, the best opportunity is to move to a superior ex ante or proactive fraud detection program. So while you're doing the procurement process in the e-procurement system, if there's an issue, it will flag it right then and there. And examples of red flags and fraud schemes are including bribes and kickbacks, conflicts of interest, bid rigging, and collusive bidding and fraud schemes. So it is important to include red flags into the e-procurement process. Additionally, we need to start putting together incorporating sustainable public procurement and green public procurement into the digital process. One of the online databases that we curate and maintain at the World Bank is called the Global Public Procurement Database. This database captures macro information about countries. So that's information about the country, it's information about the public procurement agency, the central purchasing body, it's information about the legislation and what the legislation, the public procurement law supports, what it doesn't support. It's information about e-procurement, the type of system that they have, and the type of and how well the e-procurement system is actually being used. And then there's a bunch of public procurement performance indicators in there and time analytics. And one of the things that we did this past year is we actually we defined a set of sustainable public procurement indicators, which are environmental, social, and economic, and we did collect the data. The issue is there's just not a lot of data, unfortunately, because it's not being captured in the e-procurement system. So e-procurement systems can help to facilitate routine data collection and support sustainable public procurement practices and green public procurement practices. And they can collect the information on tender specifications and tender process and contract performance, and they can help to facilitate routine data collection on this. And then with the data collection, you can do analysis and reporting and visualizations, and they can even be done in real time to help identify opportunities for improvement. And I do think that this is a very important item. We've got these systems, but it's great that we're digitized the public procurement process, but as we move forward in time, public procurement is changing, right? All of a sudden, sustainable public procurement is important, and one way to really green a country is through the 15 to 20% of the GDP that runs right through the procurement system or through the e-procurement system. And the same with if you want to fight corruption in procurement, the e-procurement system is a fantastic way of doing that. Let's talk a little bit about disruptive technologies in procurement. This will fundamentally change the way in which public procurement is valued. It provides an innovative data analytics approach to help identify corruption, collusiveness, and fraud patterns, as we talked about in public spending. It also promotes a data-driven decision-making and evidence-based procurement policy and strategy development. And the benefits of disruptive technologies are efficiency gains, transparency, governance, and data analytics. And let's dive into some of these disruptive technologies. And here we've listed them all. We do have a report that we did put together on disruptive technologies in procurement, and we actually presented it here, I think last year or the year before. And here we've got the listed disruptive technologies. Today, I'm going to talk about cloud, AI, RPA, and data analytics. Some of the other ones we've talked about in the previous presentation, and there's a fantastic report out there that you can get an idea of more information about these disruptive technologies, how they're used in the procurement process in the report. So let's talk about artificial intelligence and RPA. So artificial intelligence is the application capable of processing tasks that are currently performed more satisfactorily by human beings, insofar as they involve high-level mental processes such as perceptual learning, memory organization, critical thinking. And then another one of the subcomponents of artificial intelligence is robotics process automation, and is a technology designed for automating repetitive tasks, which in procurement we have quite a bit. And the software robot connects to an application to manipulate data, perform calculations, and communicate with other digital systems or carry out various tasks. And one of the things for applications for potential of AI and RPA technologies covers all stages of the procurement process. And there's numerous benefits. So one thing we can do is automate low-level value-added task in public tendering and contract execution process. So one of the things we do at the bank and many public procurement authorities do is they provide reports on post-review. Prior review at over a certain value, usually it goes up, and there's a fiduciary process that happens. But for post-review procurement, it is historically been an outrageously taxing process of, procurement professionals and practitioners going in and identifying which procurement transactions need to be reviewed within the post-review process, and then diving into each of those procurement packages and identifying whether or not there are any outliers or things like that. That, believe it or not, can be automated, and that's a great use of artificial intelligence. Additionally, automation of all activities related to master data extraction and dirty interfaces through RPA. So this would be robotics processing automation and pulling information out of all of the documentation associated with the procurement package and being able to aggregate that and analyze that and provide reports on that. Also, it can help with enhanced contract management and improve accuracy of strategic decisions. Predictive analysis with machine learning also. There is also a study out there, and I think in one of the regions within India, of an AI RPA tool where it's grabbing information associated with contracts and contract performance, so that and aggregating it to a larger database. And the idea with this is that when you have all this contract information, one of the challenging tasks we have in procurement is doing the due diligence of the qualification process. Well, because you can always keep digging, and also many times when information is sent in for the qualification requirements evaluation, it's scanned copies of signed documents, and it's very hard to validate. So one of the things we do, if there was a database of all the contracts out there, their lifeline, or their timeline, their cost, whether they were completed or not completed, and we have all this information, and we could use this information through an AI interface, and it could help out with the due diligence process. Instead of us having to go and dig, we'll let the AI go and dig through all the information and provide the results. So this is the automation of more critical procurement tasks, such as the evaluation of qualification requirements through a contract database. Thanks. All right, so let's talk about big data analytics. In big data analytics, I like to call this procurement data analytics, or PDA, and it's available of the availability of machine readable procurement data collected in an existing e-procurement systems. Luckily, we're fortunate enough that most of this is in a relational database, so it has lots of metadata that can help us leverage the public tendering procedures and supplier spend management to offer the following opportunities. So this is enhanced spend management, so that's big data analytics, can substantially improve the classic spending analysis routines. It can help facilitate sourcing, evaluation, and negotiation preparations, and it can increase capacity to detect public corruption and better risk management and support government accountability. Now we'll talk a little bit about cloud technologies, because they offer a great opportunity in terms of data sharing, flexibility, and cost efficiency for public buyers. And the benefits offered by a procurement integrated are numerous. So you have more accurate decision making through a more reliable data, increased compliance and reduction of maverick buying, a guide to decision making. One of the great things about the cloud is, I know there was a question earlier about, are there e-procurement softwares out there on the shelves? Yes, there are. Those are commercially off-the-shelf systems that you can hire a vendor or supplier and customize those to meet your needs, or there are software as a service that sit up in a cloud, and you basically, these e-procurement systems have functionality that you can configure to meet your needs. And that can really help to streamline the process of getting up and running on e-procurement while using best practices that are built in to these e-procurement systems. So it really does, and we're doing quite a bit of COTS and SaaS solutions throughout the world. So I do feel that one of the other things that we really need to consider in e-procurement is interoperability. E-procurements are really powerful systems with all the various modules, but they become exponentially more powerful when they are hooked up with other systems. The example that I like to give is the Korean system. E-procurement system is connected to 128 other government information systems, which really helps to facilitate and expedite the procurement process. So examples of systems that you can interface with is a business registration system. You can do SMS notifications gateways, e-tax payments. Another is beneficial ownership systems, and we're integrating e-procurement systems with beneficial ownership systems, and this does help out with the qualification requirements evaluation during the evaluation process to see whether or not who the owners of the vendor are and whether they have any correlation with government officials. And also, I think the biggest integration is always with the IFMIS system. And it can help that procurement transactions are properly recorded and accounted for, and to ensure that all financial transactions related to procurement are properly managed and monitored. Now, what I'd like to do is focus a little bit on the integration with financial management systems as we wind down the presentation. A couple things that we want to do is we want to make sure that our e-procurement system is integrated to be able to provide budget allocation prior to the procurement procedure publication, to make sure that the approved budget allocation prior to the contract award, and that's a part of the e-tendering process, and approved budget allocation prior to the requisitioning for the e-purchasing. And additionally, we want to make sure that we have commitment control and management after the contract award. And then we want to have electronic payment schedule to release the funds. And here we can see a diagram of the budget cycle and how e-procurement fits into the budget cycle. So here you can see the procurement plan feeds into budget preparation, goes back and forth when the government or the region puts together their budget preparation. That goes and creates e-procurement plans. And then it also, once those become approved, then it can be published information about the e-procurement plan and the procurement packages. Then you've got the commitment of the funds, which are associated with the awarding of the tenders, and then the payment of the tenders or the purchase orders through purchasing. And it does cycle back around, okay? Now, one of the things that we need to start doing as part of this is also incorporating sustainable public procurement tagging into this budget cycle. So this would be green tagging. So if anything is tagged green within the budget preparation, it should cycle down into our e-procurement system so that we know that for a particular procurement transaction that we should be using environmental or green criteria. Additionally, there could be gender tagging associated with that, and that could flow down into the procurement process. And that legitimizes the use of green public procurement or sustainable procurement or gender tagging or within the procurement process. Because at the moment, most countries and most e-procurement systems, it's a voluntary process. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the importance of performance indicators. We've got all these e-procurement systems out there, but one of the things we don't have is the public procurement performance. And I know that because I curate the Global Public Procurement Database, which captures all this public procurement performance information. And many countries and in many regions within countries don't properly collect or publish this information. Remember, this is information that's public, and it should be public and published, either through their own mechanisms or through preferably through the open data procurement method, which is the Open Contracting Data Standard, or OCDS. And here are a couple of suggested indicators. So one is the adoption of electronic procurement to increase participation of SMEs in EGP, and then also just to see what the full adoption is. We do track to see how much procurement is actually going through the e-procurement system compared to doing the paper-based version. Then we've got public procurement performance. So this is the idea here is we collect, how many tenders per year, goods, works, and services, how many contracts are signed per year, goods, works, and services, how many of those tenders and contracts are using green public procurement, and how many are utilizing fraud detection. And the idea here is to improve public financial management, improve efficiency of the procurement process, environmental responsible procurement, to improve socially responsible procurement, and make sure that the procurement process are treated in a fair and equal way to foster transparency. So this is something that's really important, and I do feel that it is missing. I think that one of the things that we need to consider is when countries and regions or subnationals put together their annual reports, there needs to be some kind of consistency associated with public procurement performance indicators. And that is it. So I want to thank the organizers. This has been a fantastic session, and I will take any questions. Thanks so much. Pamela, you're still muted.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr.
Yeah.
Cascia. So, yeah, we will take questions. So, the chat is not visible to me.
Okay, I can see there's the three questions or a couple of questions here. Should I just go ahead and go through those? Thanks, Pamela. Okay, so one of them is, what are the key drivers for implementing digital transformation in procurement within an organization? Well, one is you have to have the legislative framework. So it needs to be part of the public procurement law to make sure that this digital transformation can actually happen, that you can do this. Secondly, you have to have the institutional framework. I always like to say, for public procurement authorities and agencies, once EGP gets up and running, everything changes, right? So instead of using all these paper-based processes, now everybody is interfacing with the digital process, right, which is the e-procurement system. And as part of that, we need to have an agency or a supplier that supports and maintains the e-procurement system. So if you look in larger countries, what you'll find is they actually have e-procurement agencies that support the system, and they support, the Public Procurement Authority, all the procuring entities and the vendors to help to facilitate that. And that's important, the infrastructure framework. Additionally, so those two are important. And then there needs to be, I think the other thing that we need to make sure, and I mentioned this in the presentation, is that we use the correct e-procurement modules for the correct types of e-procurement. One of the big bangs for your buck is the e-marketplace, and India's has really utilized that, and they've hit the tipping point where everybody's using it now. And other countries really need to do that because you save on the transaction costs, and you can easily, interestingly enough, green those marketplaces and put in sustainable and green goods and works and services in there, and that's really important. So I'm looking at the second question, and the second question is, in summary, what could be characteristics of a good supplier relationship management? Well, it's a very good question. As we move forward in time, the supplier relationship has become much more digitized, right? Back in the day, you were calling suppliers, you had your list of suppliers. It was very challenging to source suppliers. Now there's all these methods for sourcing suppliers by utilizing the suppliers that are in your e-procurement system that are associated with certain category codes, where you can go and look and see which suppliers have submitted bids or signed contracts. So there's a wealth of ways of finding suppliers. Also, we need to, one thing that I always like to say is that we should be utilizing these digital technologies on the market analysis. I think that's very important. So grabbing information in the procurement database about pricing and time analytics associated with certain category codes, I think that's very important. And also supplier performance, capturing that is important. Now in public procurement, it can be very precarious to include that in evaluation, but you don't need to include that in the evaluation. What you can do is, if you do know a supplier does have poor performance, that means as the previous speaker, your risk goes a lot higher. So you need to be much more aware of that risk and make sure you're mitigating it properly. Okay. So, and I can see, wow, the third question is a doozy. How can a supplier relationship management to gain competitive advantage and enhance the circular economy? This is a great question. So, the relationship management with a supplier in a digital environment does help by, during the procurement process, making sure everything is transparent and public at the according time. And then once the contract is signed, all that information is shared. But coming back in, again, what we want to do is we want to make sure we're capturing all of the sustainable public procurement information associated with the suppliers and their performance information, so that when we go and we procure again in subsequent years, that we know what the suppliers and the market is available. I think doing a market analysis is really important. So we know from previous purchases, especially for high risk and high value, where how we can better utilize the information that we've seen previously. So it's more in a circular fashion. And I will stop there. I'll see if there are any other questions. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cascia. There are no more questions. I can see the chat now. So thank you for your responses. Thanks for that. So we'll move on to the next session now. So coming
Thanks so
up next.
much.
Thank you.
All the best. Yep.